So you're 42. You were born in Turkey. Why did you come to the UK? When did you come?
I was. So my parents migrated to UK in the 80s. So my family are Kurdish, and there's Kurds are prosecuted across Middle East, where it was not a happy place in the 80s. So they were political asylum seekers here. And they found home in London Borough of Hackney, where I grew up. But yeah.
And how does that make you feel about the political debate about asylum seekers today?
A little bit angry, because when my family came here, and when I was a child, I went to primary school here, and all my upbringing was in this country, in this city. Our city, our neighbourhood, our community was a lot more welcoming. I remember my first days in this country where we spent a lot of time in the church, where there were a lot of Kurdish people who were leaving the country at the time, and remember lots of people bringing toys for us, for the kids at churches. And so as I said, it was a lot more welcoming, but also the government policy was a lot more welcoming. It was a lot more supportive. I just think, and it was much easier for my family to come across. There was no visas. It was a lot safer, and my family didn't have to do some of the perilous journeys that a lot of people are having to do. And people don't leave their homes. People don't take such horrible risks with their children, their families, because it's fun. People are doing it because they are escaping war zones. So yeah, it is very sad. It's very, very sad where we've got to.
You mentioned the church. Are you religious today? Do you have faith?
I'm not. I'm Kurdish, and I belong to a minority faith called Alevism, and it was banned in Turkey. So they weren't, when I was growing up, you weren't allowed to practice it, and it's still discriminated. That people aren't, So it wasn't. I wasn't taught it. My parents didn't teach me it because, it was a way of them keeping us safe. So I don't know very much about my faith, and I'm not. I am spiritual, but not. I don't have a specific belief, but I'm hoping my daughter will join a religious community, or a community where she learns about faith.
And you became pregnant with your daughter shortly after being elected to Parliament. You got in 2019, so the last election. You've only been an MP for 2 and a bit years. So just talk us through, when did you get pregnant, in terms of the December 2019 election, and then you get pregnant when?
I did, yeah. So I got pregnant in August of 2020. It was halfway through. So the lockdown. So we'd gone into lockdown, and then it had eased over summer. So there's a lot. So it was a bit more relaxed, and that's where I had my baby through IVF. And I'd waited, I'd been going through IVF for a very long time, and I'd waited a long time to have my baby. So I decided not to waste any more time. And when I got the opportunity to go for IVF again, to have my transfers that summer, I did, and I was very lucky, and it worked.
Why did you have to have IVF, if that's not too personal a question? Were you trying for some time before?
Yeah, so no, I'd had, we'd been trying for several years, for quite a few years, and I'd had several miscarriages, and so I went through IVF through NHS, which was an interesting experience.
In what way?
It's really tough. It's really tough to get there, convincing your GP, and then going through, and it's the waiting. I think women are so hard done by NHS anyway, on every front. But on fertility and IVF, it's just so unfair. You've got, you've got a postcode lottery. Some places only allowing you one round of IVF. Some places are allowing 3 rounds. Everyone putting different restrictions, and there are so many barriers. It was a fight at every stage to be able to get to treatment. So I'd fought really hard for it, and it was really, really difficult. And it didn't work. It didn't work through an NHS, and then I had to go private.
How much? I mean, you don't have to tell me exactly how much, but that must be a costly process.
So, yeah, it is very expensive, because I mean it's worse now. So at the moment, only 35% of all IVF treatments are undertaken by NHS. Everyone else is having to go private. I mean, that's really damning. Women are being forced to go private, and it's extortionate. It's really, really expensive for families.
How did you have to borrow money, or did you save money?
No, I mean, to be fair, I was lucky because both me and my husband, I was an MP at that point, but even before, both me and my husband, we had enough savings, and we were able to go through it. But it's quite expensive if you have a median income. It can get very expensive. So
how many rounds of IVF did you have to have?
God, I got pregnant on my 5th one.
5 rounds of IVF.
5 rounds of IVF.
Gosh.
And it was really. So I was in politics before I became an MP. I was a local councillor, and I remember when I was going through my IVF, and it was really difficult because you don't want to tell anyone. You're a bit embarrassed because it feels, there's still the whole stigma around it where, it feels like you feel a bit of failure for not being able to conceive and so on. So you always hide. I very much felt that stigma. So I didn't tell anyone. So it meant that I had to take breaks like halfway through my meetings to rush into the toilets where I will mix my drugs and, the solution, the powder, and lots of different syringes and like inject myself and then rush and run back and it's difficult. It was really, really difficult. So there's a lot needs to be done to support women who are going through IVF. I believe in workplaces, a lot of support. Yeah, 5 rounds. Yeah,
God,
it's brutal.
I mean, every time that it does, the 5th one, you must have been absolutely ecstatic. But 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, how do you feel by the 4th time?
It is hard because so the first couple of times I had enough embryos to do 2 transfers, but then after that I didn't collect enough eggs, so you're having to go through the whole process of injections and blood tests and scans, and it's a lot of it's a lot of appointments, a lot of time off work, and it's still it's still seen. I had to have I had several laparoscopies to identify the causes of my infertility. But we still look at infertility or fertility treatment as a lifestyle choice. It's not seen as a medical condition. So there's a lot, as I said, women have it really hard. And if everything, and I will say in health, is really stacked up against women. But it was hard. It was first couple of times I thought, okay, just started. But it then, you just, I think with the 5th one, I had no expectation. I thought it wouldn't work again. I didn't think it would work again. I actually went through, I had a transfer the week of my selection when I first got selected as an MP. I remember thinking, if my transfer is on the day when the hustings are on Saturday, I'm just going to have to pull out of the hustings. There's no way. We tried for so long, and I thought, I've waited. I'd been involved and spent a lot of time in politics. I felt like, I wasted a lot of time. I was going to go for it, but I got a call saying actually embryos are not developing that well, so we're going to do an earlier transfer. So I had my transfer a lot earlier, a couple of days earlier, so I still went to the hustings. And when I got through, I thought, if something great in my life has happened, and I can't be that lucky, I'm not going to get pregnant as well. And I didn't, so I kind of knew that, but in my heart. But yeah, it was. So when in March, when lockdown happened, had an embryo, and I was just terrified that I was not going to get the opportunity to have my transfer and have my, and have the chance to become a mum again. I was absolutely terrified. So when the first opportunity came up, I went and had my transfer, and it was the right thing to do, and I got pregnant, and it was amazing. But so many women, because for NHS, basically IVF just stopped completely, and it's taken ages for it to restart again. So it's been hard. But yeah, now I have a little lovely, beautiful little munchkin. I have a daughter now who's 13 months old now.
Do you take her to Parliament?
She's at Parliament nursery. One of the other things. So when I all my pregnancy was through COVID, so I never got to do
Was your partner there at the birth?
He was. I was very lucky because he wasn't allowed into the scans throughout, which was terrifying. Because you're really happy, and because of my age and because I had IVF, I had extra scans, so they will suggest extra scans, which was terrifying anyway. So,
and he couldn't hold your hand while you're having your scans.
So I will be, it was just be absolutely terrified. But it was fine at the end of everyone. But yeah, so that was tough. But he was there for the birth, which was lovely. But my pregnancy was through COVID, so I never got to make friends. I never got to find out some of the normal things that they get told, like, register your child with register yourself with a local nursery, because places are really difficult to find. And I hadn't, and it was really difficult to find a local place. So I brought her to the Parliament nursery, which she loves. She absolutely loves it there.
Is Parliament a welcoming place for new mums?
I was absolutely terrified when I got pregnant, because I was, because there is no formalised maternity leave. But it's been absolutely amazing. Everyone's been really, really helpful. And I was really lucky because as a result of my colleague Tulip, we now have proxy voting. So I didn't have to worry about my votes in Parliament. But in the constituency, it was really lovely because I could take Esme out to meet constituents. Once we were able to. But everyone's been really, really helpful.
Because proxy voting stopped, didn't it, after COVID? I think I'm correct.
No, if you are pregnant, you get as a new mum.
You can't speak, but you can
yes.
vote. Right.
As a new mum,
right.
you can have a proxy vote for 6 months. If I had to change anything, I would change that to maybe 12 months. But other than that, the whips have been really understanding. Everyone's been really, really helpful. There are lots of things, of course, you can improve. Just making sure, that all the information's there available, as like any other workplace would. And it wasn't, I had to go out and look for it and had to arrange meetings. I had to ask people about it. And so I was a bit scared, but it was fine. It's been a nice journey, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Nice to end on that. Congratulations. And thank you for opening up and sharing lots of experience of a pretty difficult time trying to get pregnant. But congratulations that you have Esme now.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.